Concorde was a 32-gun frigate of the French Navy, lead ship of her class. Built in Rochefort in 1777, she entered service with the French early in the American War of Independence, and was soon in action, capturing HMS Minerva in the West Indies. She survived almost until the end of the war, but was captured by HMS Magnificent in 1783. Not immediately brought into service due to the drawdown in the Navy after the end of the war, she underwent repairs and returned to active service under the White Ensign with the outbreak of war with France in 1793 as the fifth-rate HMS Concorde. Initially part of squadrons cruising off the French coast, she played an important part in the action of the 23rd of April 1794, capturing the French frigate Untitled, and at a later engagement, where she helped to capture the French frigate Virginie. From 1797 until the early 19th century she had especial success against privateers, capturing a large number in the West Indies and in the Atlantic. She had a narrow escape from a superior French force in 1801, but was able to batter her pursuit, the 40-gun Bravura, into submission. She was prevented from capturing her by the arrival of French reinforcements. Her last years were spent on a variety of stations, including at the Cape of Good Hope and the East Indies. Laid up in 1807, she was sold for breaking up in 1811. Construction and French career. Concorde was one of a three-ship class of Concorde-class frigates built for the French Navy to a design by Henry Chevillard. She was built at Rochefort between April 1777 and January 1778, being launched on 3 September 1777. She went out to the West Indies after the French entry to the American War of Independence, and reached Martinique on 17 August 1778. On 28 August 1778 she came up on the 32-gun HMS Minerva under Captain John Stott, and after 2.5 hours of fighting, captured her. Minerva was towed to Cap Français on Saint-Domingue, where she was joined shortly afterwards by the captured HMS Active, which a hurricane had dismasted in late August and which the French frigates Charmante and Dédaigneuse had captured on 1 September. In 1781 Concorde was responsible for vital transfers of personnel, funds, and communications that contributed to the Allied success at Yorktown. In March 1781 she carried dispatches to George Washington and the Comte de Rochefort from France. These dispatches included a request from the Comte de Grasse, commander of the West Indies fleet, for information on planned Allied operations and the delivery of pilots familiar with the American coast. She also carried 6 million livres to support the war effort, and the new commander of the French naval squadron at Newport, Rhode Island, the Comte de Barras. Following a conference of Allied leaders in May, Concorde was sent to Cap Français with dispatches for de Grasse and the requested pilots. When de Grasse received these dispatches, he made the critical decision to sail his fleet to the Chesapeake Bay to assist in land operations against British forces operating under the command of Charles Cornwallis in Virginia. Concorde carried de Grasse's letters for Washington, Rochefort, and de Barras back to Newport. Arrival of this news set in motion Washington's march to Virginia and the eventual entrapment of Cornwallis at Yorktown. On 7 January 1783, Concorde was in company with Nympha. They sighted HMS Raven, which initially sailed towards them until she realized that they were not British frigates. An all-day chase ensued until about 9 p.m., when one of the frigates got within pistol shot and fired a broadside that took away Raven's main topgallant mast. The chase continued until about 10:30 p.m., when one of the frigates was again in range with the other coming up rapidly. At this point, Raven, which was under the command of Commander John Wells, struck. The French Navy took Raven into service under the name Sais, which she had borne when under French colours between 1778 and 1782. Capture on 15 February the 74-gun HMS Magnificent under Captain Robert Lindsay sighted Concorde. Magnificent had sailed from Grosse Islet Bay on 12 February on a cruise in company with the 64-gun ships HMS Prudent and HMS St. Albans, and on sighting the strange sail, Magnificent gave chase. She was close enough to identify the mysterious ship as a frigate by 1800, and by 2000 as darkness fell, Concorde opened fire on her pursuer with her stern guns. Magnificent overhauled the French ship by 21:15, and after 15 minutes forced her to strike her colours. Magnificent took possession of Concorde, the latter being described as carrying 36 guns and 300 men, and being under the command of M. Le Chevalier du Clesmore. Shortly after surrendering, the Concorde's main topsail caught fire, forcing the crew to cut away the mainmast to extinguish it. Prudent and St. Albans came up 2 hours later, and Magnificent towed Concorde to St. John's, Antigua. Interwar years. Concorde was brought into the Navy and commissioned in the West Indies for a return to Britain later in the year, though her commander for this voyage is unknown. She arrived in Britain and was paid off in September at Chatham. With the end of the American War of Independence and the drawdown in the Navy, Concorde was not brought into immediate service but remained laid up at Chatham until November 1790, when a great repair was begun by Wilson, of Frinsbury. The work, which cost a total of £18,259, was completed by April 1793, by which time the French Revolutionary Wars had broken out. She was fitted for service at Chatham between April and May 1793, at a cost of £6,600, and was commissioned in April under Captain Thomas Wells. French Revolutionary Wars. In 1794, command of Concorde passed to Captain Sir Richard Strachan, and she joined Commodore John Borlase Warren's squadron off the French coast. The squadron also included Warren's 36-gun HMS Flora, the 38-gun HMS Arethusa under Captain Sir Edward Pellew, and the 36-gun frigates HMS Minerva, under Captain Thomas Wells, and HMS Nympha, under Captain George Murray. Concorde and Engagente. While sailing off the Channel Islands on the 23rd of April, the British squadron came across a French squadron under Commodore Desguerreau, consisting of the 36-gun Engagente, the 44-gun Pomone, the 36-gun Ray Solouis, and the 24-gun Babet. Warren chased and engaged them, leading the attack in Flora. When the Flora was badly damaged from the combined fire from the French ships, the remaining British ships came up in support, and forced the rearmost French ships, Babet and Pomone, to surrender. Minerva, Nympha and Concorde gave chase to the fleeing Ray Solouis and Engagente. Strachan in Concorde attempted to damage the rearmost of the French ships, Engagente, before pushing on to chase Ray Solouis, but the Ray Solouis dropped back to support the Engagente, damaging Concorde's sails and rigging, with Nympha and Minerva still too far astern, and unable to catch Ray Solouis himself. Strachan engaged Engagente, and after 105 minutes of fighting, forced her to surrender, while Ray Solouis made her escape. The Concorde lost 1 man killed and 12 wounded in the fighting. Concorde and Virginie. Concorde was then assigned to Rear Admiral George Montagu's squadron in May 1794, and took part in the maneuvers during the Atlantic Campaign of May 1794. Strachan left Concorde in July 1794 to take command of HMS Minerva, and in August Captain Anthony Hunt took over command of Concorde. Concorde was part of John Warren's squadron off Quiberon between June and July 1795, supporting the Quiberon expedition, after which she joined Sir Edward Pallew's squadron. On the 20th of April 1796, Pallew's squadron, then consisting of Concorde, Pallew's 38-gun HMS Indefatigable and the 36-gun HMS Amazon under Captain Robert Carthew Reynolds, spotted and chased a mysterious sail. After chasing her for 15 hours over 168 miles, they caught up with her, with Indefatigable leading the attack. Both ships exchanged fire, considerably damaging each other, upon which Concorde came up under her stern and forced her to surrender. She was discovered to be the 40-gun Virginie, under Captain Jacques Bergeret. The captured French ship was towed to port and taken into the Navy. Later years, command of Concorde passed from Hunt to Captain Richard Bagot in November 1796, and he in turn was succeeded by Captain Bartholomew Roberts in June 1797. Concorde captured the 4-gun privateer Poisson Volant off Cape Finisterre on the 24th of July 1797. She was bound from Bordeaux to Guadeloupe carrying wines and merchandise, after which she intended to cruise as a privateer in the West Indies. Concorde was later commanded by Captain Robert Barton, who took a number of privateers in a series of cruises in the West Indies in 1798, capturing the 16-gun Quai du Pont off St. Bartholomew on the 3rd of January, the 8-gun Proserpine off Montserrat on the 8th of January, the 8-gun Hardy off Barbuda on the 11th of February, the 2-gun Hazard off Montserrat on the 13th of February, and the 2-gun Rosier off Montserrat on the 1st of April. In an action with HMS Lapwing on 8 and the 9th of September, she captured 4 privateers, the 8-gun Bonaparte, 10-gun Amazon, 4-gun Sauveur and 2-gun Fortune. Concorde's success against privateers continued with the capture of the 18-gun Prudente on the 14th of February 1799 and the 6-gun San Joseph off Oporto in December 1800 and the 1-gun San Miguel el Volante on the 1st of December 1800. Concorde had a narrow escape from a French squadron under Rear Admiral Honoré Joseph-Antoine Ganteaume, which had sailed from Brest on the 23rd of January 1801. The French sighted Concorde off Cape Finisterre on the 27th of January, and the 40-gun Bravura was sent to chase her down. Concorde cast off a Swedish ship she was towing and drew the French frigate away from the main body of the fleet. Barton then turned and engaged her for 40 minutes, silencing her guns. By now the main French fleet was fast approaching, and with his sails and rigging damaged, Barton did not attempt to take possession of Bravura and instead made for a British port to report the encounter. Concorde had 4 men killed and 19 wounded in the engagement, while Bravura had 10 killed and 24 wounded. Napoleonic Wars. Captain John Wood succeeded Barton in 1802, and the following year Concorde went out to the Cape of Good Hope. On the 7th of November 1804, she captured the 24-gun privateer Fortune under François Thomas Lemime, after a 10-hour running battle. In the battle, Fortune lost 2 men killed and had 4 wounded. Concorde had no casualties. Fortune also suffered extensive damage to her rigging. A few days earlier at Guay's Island, Fortune had captured and scuttled Fly, a 14-gun brig belonging to the Bombay Marine of the British East India Company. Captain Wood received his prisoners with distinction, and Concorde returned to Bombay. Fortune, reduced to a poor condition, limped in several days later. Concorde was under Captain John Kramer, probably from February 1806. She was still in the East Indies in 1807, where in July she captured the two-gun privateer Vigilant. Fate. Concorde returned to England and was paid off in September 1807. She spent several years laid up in ordinary. The Navy sold her at Deptford on the 21st of February 1811. Citations